eminent speakers. Most respected guest speaker for the session, Maria Luisa M. Guinto, who's an associate professor, research director, sports psychology department of sports science, College of Human Kinetics, University of Philippines. She holds a bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degree in psychology from Antonio de Manila University, a founding member of the Association of Sport and Exercise Psychology of the Philippines, ASEPP, and the first chairperson of the Sport and Exercise Psychology Special Interest Group of the Psychological Association of Philippines. She is currently treasurer of the South Asian Pacific Association of Sports Psychology, a member of the Women in Sports Commission of the Philippine Olympic Committee. She also serves as an executive board member of the International Association of Physical Education and Sports for Girls and Women, IPASCWA. She is currently co-editing the book Women in Sports in Asia, a collaborative project between IPASCWA and IXP, spearheading 2 national research projects on COVID and athletes, and collaborating with international researchers on global study on exercise and well-being during this pandemic. Her research interests includes applied sports psychology, champion mindset, women in sports, spirituality, mindfulness, community resilience, and psychosocial intervention disaster. So on behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Khelo India, a warm welcome to one of our most dignified speaker, Dr. Professor Maria Luisa Guinto. A warm welcome to you to the session. Indeed, your biodata is so elaborate, but she insisted that I have to cut it short, speak hardly few, but I think your actions and your session is going to speak much more than the biography. So warm welcome to you, Maria. I also would like to welcome the president of IPASCWA, Professor Rosa. My dear darling, a warm welcome to you. Professor Maria Dinold, a warm welcome to you. Alessandro, again, a warm welcome. And to our principal, Dr. G. Kishore, sir, a warm welcome. And finally, my dear PE teachers, I always say you are the heart and soul of this program. A warm welcome to all my PE teachers who are enthusiastic, energetic, and have proved that it is so good. And in spite of sitting for hours together, so once again, a warm welcome to you. A warm welcome to one and all. Over to you, Professor Maria Luisa, for the session, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Usha, for that very wonderful introduction to all of us. And before we begin, I will ask all of us first to get out of our seats for about a 3-minute movement activity, so that if we've been sitting down the whole day, we will be a little bit moving at this point. Okay, so I will ask Pranesh to put on the video for us to have a bit of movement exercise, which we can do within the confines of our room. All right? Okay.
I request all the participants to kindly join for a session because we get warmed up before listening. Let us all warm up, join together, participate in the practical session too. Psychological warm up, no physical activity. Come on.
We're gonna box to the right. Oh. Woohoo!
Oh, thank you, Maria. It was wonderful. We all warmed up and we are geared for the session now.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I'm so glad that all of you participated. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wait. Yeah, I'm gonna what do you call this? Just welcome everyone. For those of you who just came in a few minutes ago, we had what we call the brain break. Now we have all of these little videos that we actually created in our college that we use in between classes. So the two teachers you saw in the video are actually PE teachers from our college, and they create all these brain break videos for use actually. And even before the COVID, they've been doing these videos for brain breaks. Okay, so good evening, everyone, once again. And we are going to have our session this evening on cultivating mental health in PE and sports during this pandemic, this COVID 19. And to begin with, of course, we are very well aware that this virus has changed the landscape, okay, of PE and sports and the rest of the world. And it is not just in India, but all over the world. We are in lockdown and different forms of quarantine. And I think the direct impact for most of us here is the cancellation of all sport activities, no face to face. And the biggest of which is really the Olympics being canceled for this year. And most of us are really here in our homes, unable maybe to be doing what we used to do. I don't know how it is in different parts of India, but here in the Philippines, we are really ordered to stay at home. So unless you're part of the essential industries that need to really go to work and deliver services, most students, especially 21 years old and below, are not allowed to go out. And people 60 and above are also in the same situation. Okay, so the world appears to be temporarily closed, and it really feels very different. And we speak about the new normal. Well, after 6 7 months of this, it really is no longer new. It seems to be the default mode now, where we observe physical distance and washing hands frequently is really the default of everyone, and wearing mask. In here in the Philippines, we have to wear face shield on top of the face mask. Okay, so it's no longer enough to wear face mask but face shield here in the Philippines. And so I have a few, actually two questions for everyone. And I will ask you to type in your answers in the, what do you call this, chat box. Okay. So the first question is, what
All
do you,
participants kindly, just a minute, Marisa. All the participants kindly answer the question in the chat box. Please do that. Thank you.
yes, just a word or a phrase. Okay. What do you appreciate about the lockdown or quarantine? Okay, I know this is difficult, but even just one. Okay, is there anything about our situation now that you actually appreciate? Okay, so please put that in the chat box. Just one or two things that you appreciate. Okay.
Good. Good. We can hear lots of answers like pollution control, family togetherness, valuing myself. All are concerned about fitness, rejuvenated, slow pace of living, socializing, self-realization, family together, lack of pollution minimized. A webinar like this, enjoyed exercise with the family, home contribution, learn with the online sessions, exercising regularly, clean water, found health is wealth, Earth is healing. P classes of LNCP has been very knowledgeable. More time with family with online learning, online courses.
Yeah, well, that's a
Time to
lot.
start some new things other than sports like painting.
Yes, wow. I mean, I didn't expect everybody will be so quick. I remember in the first two sessions, this point took a bit of some time, but now we're so fast in
Less expense, improve in management finance, new methods of teaching, improved immunity, online classes, awareness of health. People are aware about their health now. Nurturing, attending workshops, knowledge updating, and got chance to learn from experts
Let's
like
take
you all. Like you all.
yeah,
You're
let's take
learning a doctorate in P by using technology, became more tech-savvy, learned about online classes, fun games.
okay. All right. Okay. Now, the next question. What do you miss about your pre-lockdown or pre-quarantine life? What is it that you miss most? All right. So, can we just like type in our responses in the chat box to uh, remember what is it that we miss most?
The question hasn't changed in yours, Maria. You need to change the second question. Can you just bring in?
Oh, it's there already in my
The
screen.
first question is what do you appreciate? The second question hasn't come in. What do you appreciate about the lockdown or quarantine?
And no, the second question is what do you miss
Yes, yes,
about?
got it. Thank you. What do you miss about your pre-lockdown or pre-quarantine life? Coordinating with children, my freedom to roam around, missing school children, students, group games, no sports and games, practical on the ground, teacher, coming out of home, no handshaking, no handshaking, missing freedom, hugging and direct contact with students. Oh, that's it, Maria. My personal training, physical department, friends in schools. I miss my school team, our ground, missing school children, miss restaurant, sports. We miss the practical coaching to our students, offline teaching, missing ground experience, exercise, schools, none. Tournament and physical training. As a player, I miss playing tournaments. Activity along with children, students interaction, face-to-face, outdoor training, students smiling face, colleagues, practical sports. Being together with family, friends, and students, no tournament. Missing umpiring, direct interaction with the people, sports, greeting with hugs and kiss, cinema, social relationships stopped, recreational activities, yoga, exercises limited to home practice.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a lot. Well,
Thank you,
okay.
participants did great. Yeah, there's some more questions to come up. Practicing outdoor, no competitions.
Yeah, okay. So we miss a lot of things. In fact, I took note of one response here that said that there was nothing about the lockdown or pre-quarantine life that he or she missed. Okay, well, I guess at this point, some people have really appreciated what we have here. All right, okay. So, um, I like us also to go internally this time, okay? So instead of looking at what we miss and what we appreciate, let's now take a closer look at our own mental health during this pandemic. And we're going to have a Zoom poll, okay? So, Pranesh, can you show us the different poll questions that everyone could respond to?
Please respond on this. Hope you all can see the screen. Kindly fill in this. It's a poll. So
Yeah.
please put the answer. It's do you agree, rarely, sometimes. For the first question, trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, whether it's rarely or never, sometimes, always. Please do fill in this. Your time
Okay.
starts now.
Just click your answer and click next to go to the next item. We have 9 items that you will think about if you've experienced them in any way.
Started. No, it's not started. Hope you have started doing it. Please do take in, and in the end, you need to click end polling. Ninth question, once you complete only begin. Oh, that's great. 1 of 383. Only one.
All right. So when we're more or less done with the majority, Pranish will flash the different responses to the 9 questions.
You need to wait for a minute, then they all do it, okay, Maria?
Yes, I can see the figures changing now.
That's great. Good. Take off my. Please do hurry up. Maybe just we have 10 seconds more.
Yeah.
Yes, we make it. That's good. I think there are many more to complete.
Okay, in my screen, I can see 20% have voted already.
It's only about 75 of 389. Kindly, yes. Slow, 10 seconds. 3 seconds. 10 seconds. 10 more seconds to go.
Yeah, and then we're going to flash the responses.
Okay, now I think we'll stop it because should we stop it?
Yes, we can. We can already. All right. So can we flash the responses?
Yeah.
All right. So we can see here now that for the first question, trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or sleeping too much, 67%, nearly 70% have experienced this difficulty. Now, for the second question, little interest or pleasure in doing things. We have 57, more than half, of experiencing this. Okay, little interest or pleasure in doing things, and close to 25% always. And then for poor appetite or overeating. Okay, so rarely or never is the number one, but almost of the same percentages sometimes, and a few always. And the fourth experience, feeling bad about yourself or that you're a failure or have let yourself or family down. Most have never or rarely experienced this, with about 40% saying sometimes, and a few always. Feeling tired or having little energy, we have more, almost more than half, saying sometimes that they felt this way. The sixth, okay, mood or experience is feeling down, depressed, or hopeless. While we have equal percentage for people never experiencing this, but about the same quantity sometimes feeling down, depressed, or hopeless. And then we have half of the group feeling troubled concentrating on things. For example, reading the news or watching TV is experienced by half of those who responded. And then moving or speaking so slowly or being very fidgety or restless, while most or at least half, rarely or never, we still have about 44% who experience this sometimes. And finally, thoughts that you would be better off dead or hurting yourself, majority, rarely or never, almost 56%, but we have 37% experiencing this sometimes and 7% always. Okay, so um, Now let's see how is this done now during this pandemic. Okay, so over the past 6 to 7 months, I'd ask you if you experience this um, emotions, moods, or dispositions, because reports have it that these emotions or these feelings, these experiences are actually very normal during this pandemic. Okay, when times are abnormal, these reactions become the norm. So if you are feeling or if you felt this way at any point in time during the last 6 to 7 months, know that these are normal reactions during abnormal times. Because COVID 19 did not just affect the body, it has actually affected our mental health. And just because you feel that your mental health has become vulnerable during this COVID 19 doesn't mean you're weak or less strong or perhaps lower than what you think you are. Okay, so COVID 19 is not just um, a virus that has affected us, our bodies, but also our mental health as well. In fact, the WHO has reported dramatic increase in mental health cases during this pandemic, not only in some countries but worldwide. So, what is happening? Okay, psychologists would like to think that our experience during this pandemic is likened to grief, okay? Because in reality, we have lost a lot of things, a lot of experiences, our previous life, or even our sense of predictability during this pandemic. And so we use this frame to actually understand how people are managing during this time. And the same framework of the stages of grief is also used in explaining or describing experiences of people during changes. Okay, so for example, merging of companies, changes in leadership, or what we're experiencing here now in the pandemic, or even in during a disaster, that grief is a very real experience. Now, for many of our student athletes, okay, I would like to give the following examples. No, in the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of us were in shock and denial. And many of us would not even think of what they call this that it will affect us at all, because it's like, okay, it happened in Wuhan, China, but I don't think it's gonna really affect us. I mean, that was in the beginning, that was what we felt even here in the Philippines. But of course, when they what they call it suspended classes, a lot of them, a lot of our student athletes were really angry. And I guess many of us also, because the thought was, wow, you're making me stay at home and taking away my activities. And our student athletes, for instance, are really felt this because suddenly they couldn't uh, um, train anymore and they couldn't do the activities that they were used to. And so from shock and denial, and then proceeding to anger, later on, most people will go through this process of bargaining because it's so hard to stay angry, especially when the pandemic is extending beyond our expectations. So for some of us in the beginning, also we would say, okay, if I obey, if I comply with the government regulations, let's say for 2 weeks or even 2 months, everything will be better, right? So we try to convince ourselves that if we do certain behaviors, things will get better. For some, this behavior came in the form of um, panic buying, stocking up on a lot of things at home, food items and supplies, because it made them feel that this was their way of negotiating and um, coping with the situation. But then, okay, this extended beyond what we can take. And so, for example, when the sports season is canceled, and for some, their athletic careers ended with graduation if they were collegiate athletes and that was the end of their career, definitely depression will be a real experience. I was just talking with one of my student athletes who got a scholarship in the US for golf, and I had a session with her the other day, and she said, "You know what? I really felt lost because suddenly the season was canceled in the middle of the semester, and just like that, my career, my college golf ended without any ceremony, without anything. And then to top it all, I'm a graduating student. I was declared as an outstanding student athlete, but everything was done online, minus my family coming over to celebrate and really enjoy the whole thing. So it's a very depressing experience for many. And then as we are able to get used to the situation, there's a sense of acceptance that emerges. And we realize that this is happening to everyone. I have to move on. And it's not that there is anything personal against me here, but that this is happening globally. And I need to be able to pick up myself and move on with my life. Ideally, okay, we have to get to this point where we find meaning in what's happening. So, individually or even collectively, we need to figure out what is this? What is the meaning of this for me? Does it mean that I will have to expand my capacity? Should I empower myself by taking on courses? What can I do with my sports as a PE teacher, as a coach? What else can I do and what can I do during this situation? Can I really go online? Can I do my sports or PE teaching virtually in an online platform? So these stages of grief has been used really to provide some um, understanding of what people are going through during this pandemic. But at the heart of it is essentially the realization that it's really okay to not be okay. These are normal reactions to an abnormal situation. We need not pretend that we are okay because this is a prolonged pandemic, and many lives have really been disrupted. Careers have been affected. Okay, some, and not even some, like a lot of people have lost their jobs, businesses have closed down. So this is really a major thing for all of us. Okay, so what to do about this? How does this now impact teaching and coaching with the acknowledgement that mental health is a real issue? It's not. This is no longer simply for psychologists or guidance counselors, but I think all teachers, whether we like it or not, we need to be very mindful of the mental health of our students and our colleagues, and of course ourselves as well. However, before we even mind others, we need to mind ourselves. And if you have experienced traveling, you know very well before the airplane takes off, the crew will have an instruction about safety measures. Um, and it goes something like this: place the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping small children or others who may need your assistance. So you cannot help someone else if you don't put it on first. Okay, you will not be able to effectively help others. And so it is also during these times where self-care is a moral obligation to those who care for others. And as teachers, coaches, and for some of us who are parents here in this group, we need to acknowledge that It is our moral obligation to take care of ourselves because we dare to take care of others. So, if we are always worried that our phones or our gadgets would be in low bat, we wouldn't want this to happen to our phone. Neither would we want this to happen to us. Okay, so self care is a priority, not even a luxury. So we need to check our battery on a daily basis, especially during this pandemic, and have the courage to ask ourselves, okay, on a daily basis, how are you currently feeling? We need to be in touch with ourselves. Are we feeling great? Feeling just okay? Not like yesterday, perhaps? Am I struggling? Am I feeling good? Well, I'd rather not talk about it. Or, well, I'm completely empty. These are dispositions that we have on a daily basis, and it doesn't mean that just because we feel great today, we'll feel great the rest of the week. We need to be able to acknowledge these experiences inside us without judging ourselves. To simply assess how we are without judging is part of self-care. So, self care is not being selfish. Now, in our culture here in the Philippines, we have this discomfort about being called a selfish person. And sometimes, especially if you're a teacher, a coach, or a parent, self care is not a priority because it is seen as being selfish. So it's a highly cultural thing for us, and I'm not sure if you have a similar experience in India. So we need to explain to ourselves and to our colleagues that self care is not about being me first, but it's about be taking care of ourselves too. So it's about me too, not me first, because we don't want to put ourselves ahead of others, and for us that's not too good in our culture. So we need to clarify that self-care is about me too, not me first. So self-compassion precedes compassion for others. It is very difficult to be authentically and truthfully compassionate to others if we cannot even practice this for ourselves. So, where do we begin with self care? For us, be teachers and coaches, where do we begin? We need to model this before we can even guide our students in this process. All right. So, what are the different elements that we might consider in taking care of ourselves and in guiding others as well? Well, maybe we think these are all commonsensical, but it's good for us to be reminded because it's not just about one or two, but everything that we need to do for ourselves. Of course, we need to make sure that we observe our daily routine. One of the biggest changes that people overlooked during this pandemic was their daily routine. Suddenly, it felt like a holiday or a staycation in the house where people enjoyed it so much that they they really ignored their daily routine, and this one really caused a lot of problems to people because the sudden change in routine actually has mental health implications. So for us who are guiding others, we need to make sure and ask them if they are feeling depressed or low in their moods, how their daily routines are, because sometimes a drastic change in this routine is definitely going to affect them. All right. And then we also have to stay connected with people. And of course, because of technology, this is very easy now, but a lot of people have found themselves isolated despite, all these technological advancements. Okay. And then, of course, we know this very well as PE teachers and coaches that exercise and physical activity is extremely important not just for the body, but for the mental health as well. Because research has shown the very strong link between physical activity and mental health. And during a lockdown and during a pandemic, this is even more crucial because of the limited space for movement. This is where we need to be intentional and mindful about physical activity and exercise. Okay. And then, of course, sleep. Just because we have lots of time to do this doesn't mean that oversleeping is really the way to go. In the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people felt like they needed to catch up on their sleep, but oversleeping is not good for our physical and mental health as well. Or sleeping less because you've been watching a lot of films of Netflix or YouTube videos that you felt you missed on before the pandemic, and so you try to catch up on it and lose on your sleep. That's not really very good physically and mentally. Nutrition, of course, no? Again, talking to people who approach us for mental health, we realize that just because you're home doesn't mean that you're eating nutritious foods, because a lot of people stock up on junk food or start ordering, a takeout and the delivery of food at home. And these are not necessarily healthy because they have not been mindfully prepared. Therefore, we need to assess our quality of nutrition. Okay. Now, although most of us have found connection through the help of social media, we need to regulate our use as well, because it is also the same platform where all the fake news and all the stressful reports come. And if we do not regulate this, we're really gonna be very affected in a negative way. And especially because social media features the best version of people, you start comparing yourself, and before you know it, you are subconsciously feeling terrible about yourself if you are not able to post as many positive views or pictures about yourself in social media, and start feeling relatively deprived than other people. Okay, then of course we need to keep our brains working by learning. And one of the things, bonuses during this pandemic um, is the availability of a lot of webinars and free courses. And so we need to take advantage of this, because exercising our neurons is a very healthy way of ensuring our mental health. Okay, and then humor. All right. Research has also shown that humor has a very good healing a property. In fact, they've already reported a lot of even physical illnesses that have improved. Okay, because of humor. And the experiment goes where patients have been asked to view a lot of funny or comedy films versus others who didn't, and they found out that the group who were exposed to a lot of funny and humorous films had a higher chance of getting well from their illnesses. Okay, now, okay, we also need to practice mindfulness. Okay, and what is this? This is really the experience of bringing our attention to the here and now, and acknowledging what's happening, whether internally or externally. We can actually anchor our mind onto the breath and just be aware of what we're doing or what we're feeling at the moment. So, a simple mindfulness practice of when you take your coffee, for example, in the morning, or taking a shower, of being totally aware of what's happening rather than multitasking and allowing our minds to be cluttered with other things, is good and healthy for our minds, our mental health. Okay. And then the practice of self compassion, being kind to oneself when we are not as productive and as achievement oriented as we used to before the pandemic. So, being kind to ourselves will also allow us to be kind to others as well. And finally, spirituality. Research has shown, even before the pandemic, that spirituality is a protective factor to stress, anxiety, and a lot of lifestyle stresses that are characteristic of a hurried life. Okay, so all of these really reminds us that self-care is deliberate. If we are to be mentally healthy, we need to look at all these different aspects of how we run our lives, because it is not easy to maintain mental health during a pandemic. So, as a volunteer, a mental health provider volunteer here in the Philippines, where the public can call us for consultations, we really have to assess all these things in their lives to be able to detect where they were amiss, so that we can also guide them to back to their mental health. Okay, so as PE teachers and coaches and parents, these are things that we can actually practice for ourselves and guide others as well on. Okay, we also have what we call the psychological first aid in terms of assisting others, but we begin with ourselves. So the concept of the first aid, I guess, is familiar to everyone. Where I think as coaches, I'm not sure if that is a requirement here in India, but in the Philippines, as a coach, you have to have training with the Red Cross on first aid and CPR. Okay, so we now are encouraging our coaches and our teachers to be equipped with training in psychological first aid. This is no longer the domain of psychologists, of counselors, and healthcare providers. In a pandemic like this, even if we put all the psychologists together online, we cannot uh, hope to service everyone who needs help. Therefore, we encourage everyone to learn how to do psychological first aid, and we have training for this. Okay, very similar to um, a physical first aid. So it's like, how do you take care of a person before the professional comes? You do not want the client or the patient, for instance, to be so injured, let's say a wound or a sprain, a fracture, such that when the doctor comes, the person is further injured because of the lack of attention given in the first few minutes. So the same with psychological first aid. So how do we do this? Now, allow me to use this acronym CARES to make it easy for us. We normally have a 3-hour training for psychological first aid, but in a nutshell, allow me to explain this concept in 5 letters, CARES. Okay, so I borrowed this from an organization I used to work with, the Ateneo CORD, or the Center for Organizational Research and Development, because we do a lot of training for non-psychologists, and we need to make this simple. Okay, what does C stand for? C means check for imminent danger. We need to contact our students and athletes via phone call, SMS or text messaging, emails, or other forms of social media to see how they are and what assistance they might need. So, for example, if your school year started already, even if it's been 5, 6, or 7 months into the pandemic, it's very important to have connection with every student and athlete. It cannot just be one class or one team, and that's enough. No, we need to really check on each one of them. I know this is a lot of work, but we are in very difficult times, and we surely want to be able to reach out to our students personally. Okay. Now, A stands for actively listen without judgment. So the two key terms here is listen and without judgment. Okay, so we need to listen with our ears and with our heart, and that's active listening. Active listening notices what is said and what is not said as well, and how it is said, the tone of the voice. So if you are, let's say, on an audio chat or on a video chat, you really have to look, you have to listen, and instead of introjecting or inserting our advice or counseling, we really have to listen first. Avoid interpretation, analysis, giving opinions or advice. Simply listen. I know this is very challenging, but yes, we need to be comfortable even with the pauses and with those uh, non talking parts of our conversation. R stands for reassure and inform. After actively listening, we need to reach out and assure them that their reactions are normal under these abnormal circumstances. So, as I mentioned earlier, if they describe to you all those feelings that we ask you about in the checklist during the poll, okay, you may want to use those same questions so that the student or the athlete can articulate what he or she feels, because sometimes it's hard to admit that, for example, the sleeping patterns have been disrupted. They either eat too much or eat too little. They feel bad about themselves. So you can actually guide them by reading through this checklist and assure them that these reactions are really normal during these times and that they are not alone, and inform them too that the school or the team is helping the students and the athletes and the coaches as well, that there is help. Okay. And then, of course, E in cares stand for encourage. Encourage them to seek professional help if needed. Should the student, the player, or your colleague, no, a coach or a fellow teacher, need professional help, we need to encourage them, him or her, to seek help. Connect them with people who could get referrals for them if you are not sure where to refer them or to whom to refer. And finally, S means support. Support their self-care strategies. Now, if you don't do this for yourself, it's very difficult to influence others and to explain this to others. And as I've shown you a while ago, the different components of self-care is also the same components that you will explain to others as well, whether they are your peers, your colleagues, or your students, or athletes. Guide them in self-care. Walk them through the different components of self-care. Most people need the assurance that self-care is legitimate. You need to give them that, because sometimes people just need the permission to take care of themselves, especially if they're always taking care of others. Now, in Asia, that's very, very common, where we have this collective culture that minding others is superior to minding yourself. So it's very important to be intentional about this, right? So, when do we know that professional help is needed? Now, I'm going to borrow the 4D framework that Davis actually wrote about in 2009. And he said, for you to assess if a person needs professional help, like clinical psychologists, these are four Ds that we can actually use to have a preliminary assessment. So you're not to actually diagnose, but just to be sure that if your friend, your family member, your athlete, or your student you feel needs professional help, you may use these 4Ds. The first is deviance, all right? Is the behavior or the emotion very different from what is even normal during these abnormal times? Is it very different? Second, is the person feeling distressed, unhappy, or very low? Okay, so deviance, which is very different from the abnormal reactions that people appear to have. and the person is not happy and very, very disturbed. And then there is dysfunction. And I think this is the one that is most indicative, because what the person used to be able to do, now the person is unable to do. For example, focusing on the schoolwork. Or if you're doing virtual training, the athlete or the student athlete is unable to follow or is always absent. What the student used to enjoy or be able to do well, now he or she cannot do anymore. And then, of course, there's danger to oneself or to others. In what form? Well, it could be in the form of self harm. If the person, for example, is no longer eating or sleeping, and this goes on for days or even weeks, that's really dangerous. But for many of our youth, it is now very common to hear reports of self harm, whether it's cutting, overdose, and suicide. And that is, of course, something that we really want to avoid. So if you are experiencing or observing these 4Ds, then professional help is indeed important. Okay? So with this new normal, okay, how do we manage? Okay, how do we manage in this new normal as perhaps a team, a school, or an institution, or organization? Okay, so if you remember what I showed you earlier on the stages of grief, the ideal part that we need to reach is finding meaning in COVID. No matter how difficult, how challenging this situation is, we need to help ourselves and help our colleagues and our students and athletes as well to find personal and collective meaning in COVID. Otherwise, it's really going to be very hard, especially if this is going to be prolonged and extended even beyond 2020. It's very difficult to imagine that, but one of the things we can do for ourselves and others is to help find meaning. Okay, so that's where we need to work on, so that no matter what happens, people have an anchor to understand what's happening. Now, a lot of people have asked me the question, is this a one-way process where if you're in meaning, you will never get angry or feel depressed? No, 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 no. This is just a framework. And the reality is, a lot of people slide back, go back and forth, you know. So, for example, if you've already reached acceptance and perhaps meaning, and then a very close relative or family friend gets sick of COVID or even dies, you go back to that shock and denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, because there are a lot of losses that we will be experiencing during this pandemic. So this is not a one-way a process or journey. You can be going back and forth. It can be really a roller coaster, but we need to hang on. Okay, and meaning is very, very crucial to this as well. All right. So, finding meaning in PE and sports, I'd like to share with you our experience at the University of the Philippines College of Human Kinetics, because we needed to start with ourselves, you know. And in the college, we have two departments, the Department of Physical Education and the Department of Sports Science. I'm with the Department of Sports Science, but since I'm the research director of the entire college, I'm part of the administration. Okay, so what were the things that we did when COVID hit in the few weeks after that? So first of all, we began this program which we called SIPA in COVID. Okay, now SIPA in Filipino actually means to kick. Okay, the word SIPA is a Filipino term, but it is now an acronym that we are using for this program. So if you go to Facebook, you will actually see this page. It is called SIPA in COVID, and that's the logo. And what is this basically? All right. So S stands for short, I stands for incidental, P stands for physical, and A, activity. So short incidental physical activity in COVID. All right. So what we are advocating for is that short incidental physical activity is very important to many of us who are seated the whole day behind our screens. So it is not about one time, big time exercise in the morning of 1 hour or more, but really what is more helpful is short incidental physical activities throughout the day. Okay, so if you can do this every hour, breaking your sitting position every hour to have a 2 to 3 or 3 to 5 minute physical activity, that is really, really very helpful. So what we put here in our side is that incidental physical activity is any activity that is part already of your daily life, but done purposively or intentionally so that you will be able to disrupt that sitting position. So for example, if you walk, you can walk inside a house or around your house if that's allowable, if you have a garden, or stationary cycling, or moving from one place to the other in your house, or climbing the stairs, or doing chores such as carrying heavy shopping and house cleaning, to make it intentional and to disrupt that 8 hour sitting position or more through every hour of breaks is very important. So we are in a very, very unique situation. Therefore, we need to do this. So having had discussed this among the faculty and some of our students, we opened this Facebook page and started inviting our faculty and students to do 3 to 5 minute videos of activities that they can do. All right, so exercises that are easy for the public. They don't need to be athletes or coaches to be able to do it. So in our profile in the Facebook, okay, our profile is this, okay, that's the picture there, where we really explain to people in visual terms that sitting is the new smoking, that we are all vulnerable in this quarantine or lockdown. So therefore, we need to stay active no matter how small the space is. And we are promoting SIPA, short, intense, or intermittent, or intentional, if you want it, physical activity every hour, all day. Not only once a day, but every hour, 3 to 5 minutes. And so we have here the motto, which is Filipino, galaw-galaw para huwag pumanaw, which means let us move so that we do not like die or disappear, something like that. Okay, and this is supported by the Department of Health as a motto or as a tagline for this advocacy. Okay, so I'd like to show you this first video clip, very short video clip on something that was done by our professor who was actually stuck in the province. So you will see here his environment has dogs and pets and other people, and he's our dance teacher. All right, so he made this routine for children or even adults with and without disability. So you will see some of the participants in a chair seated, so that their actions and their movements are really for those who cannot stand and move around. Okay, so I will ask Pranish to play this. Okay, Mamang Sorbitero means ice cream man. So let us watch. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Pranish, it's okay. This one is, yeah. Okay, so first the example of the teacher. Actually they can do this easily and you don't even need a big space, and that was taken in the province with very little floor area, and they didn't even like run around or anything. Okay, so that was just one example that a teacher made, and then before you knew it, our students started making, and this next example is actually made by a student athlete, and she had nothing but a small space, and she used her backpack, her knapsack as her weights. Okay, so the next example that we're going to show is something like that. Okay, so all these short intermittent physical activity can be done in between okay, your schoolwork or your work. The idea is to encourage people to engage in physical activity and avoid sitting the whole day. Okay, so shall we look at the student output? Okay, so we have an example here done by a student. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. Okay, so let me go back to my screen. All right, so we viewed two examples from our faculty and students, and that is something you can actually do also for yourselves. Now, this week we released this online Kinetica. Kinetica is really the name of our program, our summer program, where we offer all of these sport activities to the public, okay? Because the University of the Philippines is the state university, and we have all these sports and physical activities during breaks, summer breaks or sem breaks, where people take sports classes for a fee, a nominal fee. But this time we offered it online, and we just released it a few days ago, and we had to close it after I think a day or two, because we got 1,000 people registering, and we cannot do that in Zoom. So what we did was we engaged our senior students who are taking physical education to teach the different sports, and I think we had 9 to 10 sports, and this really got a very good public what do you call this, response. Okay, so apart from that Facebook page where we upload videos and infographics and all sorts of sharing of materials also from other online sources about being physically active, we offered these courses. Now our problem is how to manage the big number of registrants who joined this Kinetica Online 2020, which is really run by our senior students under the supervision, of course, of the faculty. So during this pandemic, we can really harness the time and energy of our students and athletes and fellow faculty for meaningful service learning programs such as what I showed you as examples from our university. For sure, you have other ideas, other creative and innovative ideas that you can start in your own classes or in your own schools as well. Okay, so physical education involves the education of the mind, the heart, and the body as well. We are not just, quote unquote, just physical education teachers. That physical word there might give us the impression that we are just training the bodies. No, not at all. In fact, during this pandemic, we realize that all teachers, it doesn't only have to be PE, all teachers are involved in the education of the mind, heart, and body of our students. We cannot anymore be very, what do you call this, uh, isolated in our disciplines. We need to engage the mind, the heart, and the body for physical and mental health. We cannot just talk about mental health in isolation of physical health, nor can we talk about physical health in isolation from mental health. So let me stop here first and open the discussion for questions and answers, because I know that you are beaming with insights and also ideas, and also from our panelists who are really, really great resource speakers and persons as well here. So we'd like to hear from them and from all of you as well. Okay?
Questions. Thank you, Maria. It was indeed such a wonderful session. Over to Mr. Aman for the questions, please. You energized us. We went to a different world, rejuvenated. You can see Jordan. Yeah, the entire page. It's nice.
You have to unmute.
Thank you, madam, for the wonderful session. The session was so informative. Actually, the point which I more like is the psychological first aid. Actually, if we can implement the same psychological first aid to normal teacher also, we can have a great revolution in the field. Madam, the question is, madam, how can we train our teachers in such a way that they can give psychological first aid?
Oh, yes. Actually, There are courses, webinars, a lot of webinars that are open to international, what do you call this, participants, because the international Red Cross and the Red Crescent societies are actually offering this. In fact, the other last Saturday, they opened one where they had thousands of participants, and I actually featured that in one of my group Facebook to encourage the coaches and teachers to attend. So if you have providers there, I think you will have providers. Normally they are conducted by psychologists, okay? But you can look at the websites, I think, of Red Cross in your country. They might actually be offering, because here in the Philippines, the Red Cross is already offering not just physical first aid, but psychological first aid as well. So more and more people are acknowledging that we need to equip all teachers, all coaches, and even anyone, even young people, to do psychological first aid, because we have really rising cases of mental health and suicide, sad to say.
Thank you, madam. As far as no other questions from the panel,
One of the questions was there, are drugs or therapy, from Satyarajan Swain, are drugs or therapy better for mental health conditions?
Are what? Can you repeat that?
Drugs is medicines. There are some
Oh.
who take in medications, or you suggest, there are lots who say, come on, I can't sleep, so I'd like to take in this. So what would you say in that case?
Of course, under the supervision of a physician, okay? A psychiatrist, for example, is credentialed to prescribe medications. So upon diagnosis, therefore, you cannot really take this. Most psychological or mental health drugs are regulated. You need prescription for this. So while I am not averse to recommending that to people, I will always say you need to be under the supervision of a medical practitioner, specifically a psychiatrist. We psychologists cannot prescribe. We are social scientists. We do not prescribe. Only a medical doctor specializing in psychiatry can prescribe medication, let's say for depression, bipolar, mood disorder, anxiety, etc. They need to be under the supervision of a credentialed medical practitioner.
Yeah, thank you. Now over to let's hear our panelists. Indeed, I think most of the participants are overwhelmed by your session. So you can see the chat box there. It's highly impressive, awesome session, everybody had said. So may I hear from Darlin? Let's hear from you today.
Okay, wonderful session, Maritza. Just very, very practical and informative, and things that people can remember regardless of if they're teaching, coaching, or doing anything. So for those of you who are listening, I hope you took good notes. I always do when I listen to our seminar, webinar, because I learn much. That said, help us to understand, you mentioned new normal. How do you think this COVID situation will actually change the thinking of people for when this is over?
Okay, thank you for bringing that up, Darlene, because the new normal is something that people need to latch on, the idea of new normal, because our norms, our daily routines have changed. And so this term, new normal, has helped people make sense of what's happening in a way that allows them to label this very different situation as the new normal. Instead of wishing to go back to the previous normal, and now we're even talking about a better normal. So from a new normal, we are saying that when when the pandemic is over, we don't want to go back to everything that we left behind, because not everything that we left behind is actually good. We are realizing now. Therefore, as we are experiencing this new normal, people are already talking about return to a better normal. Because there are so many things about what we used to do and prioritize that definitely led to where we are now, this global pandemic. It's not just about the virus, but how we are managing or mismanaging it. That shows a lot of our weaknesses that we need to work on. And that is, I guess, what we are finding out now, that this new normal is not about external achievements, but really working in. And the way I talk about it with coaches is that we need to engage in work in as much as work out. We need to explain to our athletes that this time is a time for work in, because we have neglected working in through our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings, our capacities, our capacity for resilience, our capacity for acceptance, tolerance, compassion for each other, self-compassion. These are all internal works that we need to do, because when we are so busy with our hurried lives, we normally overlook this. We don't give it much importance. And so this new normal is forcing a lot of people to look inside and be comfortable with what they don't like about themselves. That's one, because normally we try to cover it up by being busy on social media or doing a lot of stuff, or accumulating materials to things. These are things we don't want to go back to. And even if we used to do that without hurting other people, we realize that that kind of lifestyle, highly materialistic, highly hurried lives, that we don't anymore slow down, literally, to smell the flowers. I mean, it really sounds like cliche, but really we don't look. But now you can see, even in Facebook, people taking a picture of a leaf or a picture of a petal or what that was added. We didn't appreciate that before, but now we cook something, and even if it's just the first time our child comes up with a recipe, we take a picture, we post it as if it's really the chef's obra maestra. I mean, we don't want everything that we left behind. Sure, we miss that. And so the new normal is about accepting things that are within our eyesight and reach. We don't have to go. But the better normal that we would like to aspire for after this pandemic is over, if and when, is really to be able to create that better normal, not automatically to go back to our previous lifestyles, but really intentionally say, this I will leave behind, this I will keep, this I will do better. I don't know if I responded to
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
insight.
Maybe if I heard you correctly, maybe it's looking at opportunities for personal and people growths that will use technology to help us do that. Because if you would, if we really looked at all of the people who did not grow up with technology like our children or grandchildren have, oh my gosh, they are just shaking in their seats because they don't know how to use the new techniques. But this Zoom, I think whoever made it, I think I know who made it, but whoever made it really looked at what is going to be practical for people and easy to learn. And that's the idea, to be able, I think, to have the opportunity to grow, not letting technology rule us, but use it for the betterment of our own selves. So I really appreciate you sharing all of this with all of us, because this does take a mind shift. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you to Darlene for
Thank
raising
you.
that.
Thanks, Darlene. Professor Rosa, please.
Thank you very much, Maria, Luisa. It is a pleasure to listen to you, particularly because your presentation is such a pedagogical way to teach us how to understand psychological tools that we can use uh, for our daily life. And of course, as teachers as well, how to support others. So, how to care about ourselves, but at the same time, how to care about others as well. So, thank you very much because you make it so easy for all of us to follow you, to follow the conversations, and the examples are indeed great. And I think what you are doing at the university and to provide that service to your students, but beyond that to the society, it's a plus. Congratulations. Now,
Thank you.
I want to ask you about, for example, would you believe that with this whole situation, in terms of there has been an awareness about the importance of mental health? If it is true that normally we have known that, but we didn't care about that in general, I'm talking about society, because I know psychology and psychiatrists, for example, are professions that have had problems to establish, I mean, in society as a whole. So would you think that with this situation that we have been living all over the world, there would be a better understanding and appreciation of the profession of psychologists, the profession of psychiatrists, or in general terms, the care of our mental health? Do you think there is an awareness about that and that
Yes.
it will keep the momentum going on, or will just stop there?
Well, I think this has brought the spotlight really not just to the practice of psychology or psychiatry or counseling or mental health services, but mental health as a legitimate area of care. Okay, whether you need a professional or not, everybody is acknowledging that their mental health needs intentional care. You cannot just take it for granted that today your moods are okay. It doesn't mean tomorrow it won't. Or even for us practitioners, I think what really made it difficult for me, for example, was as a mental health provider, there were just too many demand on us for mental health care of the public. When I volunteered, for example, as a mental health provider in the psych serve, we call it psych serve of the university, it was like we had a deluge of people signing up. Okay, so they would just go to the Facebook, for example, and sign up, and we would give them at least three sessions. After three, we have to move to another client, otherwise, we cannot. So sometimes the waiting is for 2 months. And sometimes there's emergency. We have to really mind them. So now people are open. You know, I gave several webinars to companies who invited me to talk about mental health in a corporate setting. Okay, they're not even teachers or even, they really are companies asking because they have many of their employees really complaining about not feeling well to work. Even if it's work at home, they cannot work. Okay, they're undergoing so many unexplainable mood problems that they never experience. And in the beginning, people were ashamed to admit it. But because it became so common, people started talking about it. Okay, and what really concerns me is before the pandemic, okay, the WHO already declared, okay, depression as a pandemic, but nobody picked it up. We had 800,000 deaths a year from suicide. Why wasn't the world moving or jumping out of its chair for 800,000 deaths a year? And there was no virus. And there is one suicide death every 40 seconds. So as we are even in this seminar, before I can even finish one sentence, one person without COVID is dying somewhere in this world, there is one suicide death in every 42nd, 800,000 a year. Nobody declared everybody a lockdown or everybody will stop because we need to take care of our mental health. Nobody made that decision. And so now with COVID, on top of the COVID, we have these previous pre-existing condition plus intensified and additional cases. That's why we're really, really overwhelmed as mental health providers, that we are asking everyone to equip themselves with psychological first aid. It's just like everybody gets wounded or falls and fractures. If you have a fractured leg, you can't walk, it's okay, they'll give you an excuse. But if I say I have a fractured heart, nobody will excuse you. If I have a fractured mind, people will laugh about you. But that's exactly what's happening. Injury in the body is the same as injury in the mind, but people say, oh, it's just a matter of willpower. You don't have enough willpower to get yourself out of your mood disturbance. That is not true. So I think now people are able to realize, because they are first-hand experience, that now they will really look at other people with mental health issues as legitimate as somebody who has a fracture, that they'll be so compassionate. If somebody announced that they had cancer, there's an outpouring of really compassion. But if I say, if I have depression and I feel like I have suicidal tendency, people will even stay away from you and, oh no, my gosh, they would not, come forward. Because first, they don't know what to say. Second, they already judge in their mind that probably this person has a weak character or a weak personality.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosa. Thank you.
Yes. By the way, no, fantastic. I mean, what you said is so good. I mean, thank you, because there are many elements there that we take it for granted. And it's so true. Thank you. And I also want to say that Fatima Al-Fakir also sends regards. I mean, she's watching and following, so, but she cannot send message. So great, good work.
Maria. Hi, Maria. Can you just...
Hello, you mean me now? Okay. I wanted to hang on what you said earlier, the comments from Darlene on a new normal. Because from the inclusive pedagogy, I think there is no real normal, because it's normal to be different. So it's very individually and differently to be treated and to be seen. And with this in mind, I think there is always some development, some different development and very individual cases to treat. And my second remark would is concerning the video dance exercises. I think it's okay to have such a tool, but I also find it is very difficult to have kind of control if the patient or if the dancer is doing it correctly. So if you do some power exercises, probably they use it not correctly and they can harm themselves. So I would say, if you do this, if you provide this, do you also combine it with these recommendations how to do it and how to control it?
Okay, yes. Thank you for raising that, Maria. And also, first point is about the new normal. Yes, I think there's a lot of discussion now and what is normal. Yes, and I think people have always been using that label to separate people who are abnormal and normal. Yeah. Okay, but now it's blurred. Okay, we're saying that all of these abnormal reactions is now the new normal. So I think people are more understanding and more compassionate in that way. Okay. Now, yes, and then you mentioned about the short videos. Yes, there is a danger of what do you call this, injury. That is why there are notes and there are flashes of instructions on the short video. And I think on the website, there's also a disclaimer that, of course, you don't just do this one size fits all. There's an age group that is appropriate for this. Okay, so for example, the video of Professor Albert is really for able and differently abled people, and then he shows like that. But there are also notes throughout the video about what to watch out for. The example of Bianca also had instructions on how to do it, what to focus on, and it's really for the age group. So yes, I think it's a good suggestion to make it more, how would I say, articulate it more so that people will be conscious of the safety part of physical activity.
Yeah, it's nice to hear. And I also, as I know from Claire Boursier from France, there is a program where you also can look at the person who is doing and then have it being
Yes, in a Zoom, yeah.
contact online with him, so to not to leave it alone and what you want. Yeah, in the Zooms. Yeah, we also do it with our dancers. Sometimes we do it through the time. Now we got again regulations to reduce the numbers of in the group, so probably we have to use Zoom again now.
Yes, yes. That's what we do in a PE class now. We run it in Zoom so the teacher can correct while watching. But these short videos are really for the public to be consumed by anyone who could do some 3 to 5 minute workout or physical activity.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Maria. Alessandria, for your remarks, please.
Congratulations, Maria. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course. Yes, Alessandra. Thank you. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. It was very pedagogical what you presented. I really enjoyed not just the theoretical part, but also the videos. I even danced myself a bit.
You made us dance too.
Integrate the body all together. That's good. That's good. I was. It's such a coincidence that you speak about mental health, and it reminded me of what my doctoral thesis tutor said once, that our mind nowadays during the lockdown has been noticed as an unused reserve. I mean, some people say, I know I could use my mind to work through my body. So it's good that you pointed it out as well. And it's also good to know that this mind work is not it's not just a one-way solution when we work the grieving. And it's also good that we teach the whole population in the world that when we work with our mental aspect, it's it's not done in a fast way necessarily. I mean, some people can accomplish some mental health issues in a fast way, but some don't, and that's okay. Uh, I I will also like to hear about what are your thoughts on the people that refuse to train at home, even though it's been said that training at home is a very recommendable way to cope with all this pandemics thing. But there are still some people that use excuses not to train at home, not to take care of the mental aspect. Some say, look, I don't have time, I have a lot of work, I have online classes with my kids, or I can't afford it, even though there are some people that say that are very wealthy people. Or some say, which is, I think it's okay, I don't know if you think the same way, I think I can't work out in my home. I can't train at my home because when I used to go to the park, there used to be an escape for me, all the distress at home. So I would like to hear your thoughts about that issue. Thank you very much.
Before that, I think Hari, is Kishore there? Hari? Yeah, Maria.
Madam, hello.
I think Sir can come in just for a minute, he said. He's got a meeting.
Madam, Sari is in discussion.
Fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Maria, please.
Okay, so let me respond to Alessandra's thoughts. Yes, it's difficult because despite all of these, what do you call this, adversities, trials, and challenges that we're going through, a lot of people continue to get stuck with their previous beliefs and the way they want to do things. And like what you said, they would rather just focus on their work and not do any kind of physical activity because it's a bother, it's a waste of time. Of course, we cannot force everybody and compel everybody to get on their feet and do something. But you know what? When they suffer in any way, whether physically or mentally, and they ask help, whether they go to Google or into any website now, they will come across, the advice that they don't want to hear, which is to take care of their mental health and physical health as well. And there's no longer a distinction now. I think that is one of the good things that happened also, that even if you're a psychologist, you cannot stay away from recommending. I would not say prescribing, because you need to be trained to be an exercise, to give exercise prescription in very detailed way, but that you will include, okay, physical activity and exercise in your conversation with the client if you're a mental health provider. And if you are a doctor, let's say a medical doctor, there is no way that you will also avoid the issue. So I think among professionals, there is an acknowledgement that our approach to our clients and patients have to be interdisciplinary. And for people who refuse, of course, especially if they're adults, we cannot do anything about it. But when they get sick, either physically or mentally or both, they will come across the same recommendation for them to be physically active. And I would always say these are the people who have to learn the hard way. We can be really the passionate advocates that we are, as sports psychologists or sports scientists or coaches and physical educators. We can only do as much really for people. We can model it also in our behavior without telling them. But when they ask me, for example, what helps me, especially because I'm exposed to a lot of people who have mental health problems, then I always have to say, I need to take care of myself. And I go through all those components that I discussed, which includes active lifestyle, no matter how short. Let's say I really have a lot of work, and Rosa knows this because we're doing the book, okay? And even if I hardly sleep minutes, I do either yoga, Pilates, or walk around the village. I have to force myself. Even if I say, no, I need more time to edit, I have to do at least 15 minutes. On the average, 30 to 45 minutes. And really on relaxed days, I can do 1 hour to 2 hours of various physical activities throughout the day. But I really force myself. And I also do mindfulness, and I also eat well. And I have a very what do you call this, enriched spiritual life that I don't what do you call this, compromise on. So even as a mental health provider and a sports psychologist, I have to walk my talk. Otherwise, I cannot help people. And so when I come across clients who really don't want to do physical activity, I will tell them, well, you can choose to learn the hard way. I will not compel you, but when you're not making any improvements, come back to me and we'll talk about it. I try to be polite, but in essence, that's how I approach it. I don't know you, Alessandra, how you do it with your clients.
Maria, I think he shows us in a meeting. He's got an urgent meeting.
No,
Sure, sir.
I'm here.
Yeah, I know. So please.
No. I'm here.
Yeah,
Morning.
you've seen
Hi,
Darwin
madam.
has come in.
Yeah, Darling, madam, nice to see you, Dr. Dan. After a long time, we were looking eagerly for you. You were missing. We,
So for you, sir.
okay. Thank you, Dr. Maria, Lucia, and Guinto, for touching up a very important of cultivating mental health in physical education and sport during COVID. As we all really know, the difference between to be mentally balanced and imbalanced, or sanity or insanity, is only a hairline. So who are stable, who are unstable, we are already, I think, Dr. Maria could say, they're out of us also, because everyone is affected out of this pandemic, and it loses mental stability. Many of the times we are caught up with so much of trauma, so much of stigma, and where we know when we are abnormal, when we are normal, only a metrics will can show us, and many of us are undulating between both. So I think it is a very critical for the to cultivate the mental health and what ails. If you want to cultivate, that means you should know what are the ailing factors. So it's definitely the session today would have laid lot of lights, on finding out what are the ailing factors towards mental ill health or mental imbalance, and how we can bring them back. Uh, you know, there are many asymptomatic cases in COVID. There is a lot of asymptomatic cases for mental ill health also. There is no symptoms, but if you look deeply, they can find that there is somewhere something lacking. And I think Maria Madam would have come across many of certain cases, and rather the mental health people have already forewarned that a major section of the world population is under threat because of this pandemic. So I think being the physical education teachers and coaches, community coaches has got a pivotal role to play in cultivating good mental habits, cultivating mental health habits. And they should, for that, they should be forewarned that, what are the ailing factors and what need to be taken care. They need to be forewarned. So this is very, very important session which we have been taken. I'm sorry that I couldn't attend the whole set. I could only partially listen. But I'm sure it is essential ingredient has been taken care. I congratulate Dr. Maria Lucia M. Guinto for the excellent session. Congratulations, ma'am, and over to Dr.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kishore, sir. And thank you, Alessandro. I'm sorry in between I had to say because it was very it had to be brought in. And Maureen, I think it was good. There are a lot of questions which have been posed, and I think, like you said, you are a model. You preach what you practice. Your thing. I think our participants would tell us the entire routine that you happen to do, and then we always start incorporating ourselves. Because as Dr. Kishore rightly pointed out, I don't know whether you could assess all of us too. Because where do we lie in terms of the mental health? That's the biggest challenge. And I think there's a lot of things in India. As you said, Red Cross is yet to start. We do not have any of this concept coming in, and I think we are still at the very infancy stage. But we have sports psychologists who are working a lot. But I think in terms of here we have psychiatrists who are taking care of all those aspects. But at the university level, I don't think, as you said, people don't listen to the fractured heart or fractured thing. It has no way, but I think that's there are lots to learn. So I was telling the entire panelists, I keep listening to them because it's a learning for us. Every day you keep learning a lot of new things coming in, and it's high time that India wakes up. It's a wake-up call for us. It's a wake-up call for India and for our PE teachers. We start with, and we already have two of the psychologists, Alessandro and Maria. They're there, and as rightly pointed out, we have a dance expert, because I think all of them brought in a dance form. Various ways and means of mourning, because we forget ourselves. That's the best part, which we experienced in Alexandria's session, Maria's session, and even in your session. It was wonderful. And I think you need to have a workshop being organized. We definitely put up to the ministry. I was wanting, what are the resolutions to be sent across? What is that we need in our country so that things are better? Because in terms of mental health, people have no time to look into all that. Everybody wants medal. And there are a lot of questions which I think I myself wanted to ask, but due to lack of time, is the biggest challenge for us. So once again, on behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Khelo India, a big thank you. As you suggested, I cut short your bio, but then you did good. Mario was particular. Please do not read and bore people with my bios. But it was this session proved who you are. I think name is enough. Next time it will go to be only the name, and you'll be present. Thank you so much, Maria, because you brought in new concepts, and I'm sure with your inputs, we could grow. PE in India could grow, and you could help India in turn, whereby we could minimize onto the health risk. I say health is physical, mental, physiology, everything coming together, and it's high time that we need to market and we need to have more professionals coming in. Thank you so much for your informative, valuable session and awesome session. Hats off to you. It's great because you brought in concepts like first aid. For us, many it's a new concept, like Amal rightly pointed out. We don't have a psychological first aid. People have heard that for the first time. And we have heard it only in your sessions. All the 3 batches, we have been hearing it, but it's high time that we start imbibing those first aid. Thank you so much, Maria. And
Welcome.
Darlin, it's great because it's so nice. You're taking notes. And every day I keep waiting for some points from you to get in because your points are very valid to be sent to the ministry. And thank you so much because you keep me the right kind of inputs. And we are looking forward to that because it's not just talks. What can be done through the SPE program is also important. And these international webinars have actually helped us a lot. Thank you so much, darling. In spite of the aches and pains, a real person for mental health because you stood all the pains, but you made it a point to sit throughout the sessions and being here, smiling. See, that's the best part, the best example. Thank you so much, darling. So the light has come in and the light will remain. Thank you, Professor Rosa, because I always say a true international person in the true spirit, getting people across. And with your say, you tell them to report, and I'm sure everybody would come in. So you have a power, a very powerful person. Thank you so much, Rosa, for being a part of our mission, vision, and it's because of you that we could even reach greater heights. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Maria. Thank you so much for being a part of this program because you have also joined as a panelist. We all experienced you as a dancer. And I think, again, we need workshops where we could include some of the folk dances coming in. Thank you so much, Maria, for this for the input that we given and your valuable presence. And thank you, Alessandro, our most dynamic and charming, young, I say, psychologist. Because you also brought in the psychology through a dance form. Thank you so much because it was wonderful having you. And I'm sure it's now you who have to take up and then show the world what it is because you have yet to learn a lot from you people. Thank you so much for your valuable presence and inputs. And I need to thank Kishore sir. He's in multiple meetings. That's why he was talking about mental health. I'm sorry I had to bring in because there's not just one. There are 5 to 6 meetings here to attend to this. That's one of the problems that you have. So in spite of all that, he makes it a point to attend the international webinar. He would never miss that. Thank you so much, Kishore sir. And I'd like to thank all my dear PE teachers because our PE teachers I said they are awesome. They involved in all the activities, practical or you maybe theory you saw. And we are indeed very fortunate to have them. Today I had a session for them and I thought, why not? I took an aerobics. I do aerobics, a bit of movement. And then we have decided all over the country, 5 of them getting together. We'd have a virtual session. And I think in a week or 2, we are going to start because this month is the breast cancer awareness month, October. So we thought of doing that. And my pre-teachers from across the country have agreed. I've got a lot of calls coming in saying, yes, please, I too would join. So I said, get 5 persons from each of the places from across. So we'd get together and start up. This is what we look forward to. Thank you so much, my PE teachers, because you are the heart and soul of this program and you're the true ambassadors and change makers. And you're going to prove that what the PE teachers could do for the nation. So once again, I'd like to thank Pranesh, Harihar, Amal, our young scholar. Amal was a very good volleyball player. And you find all volleyballers sitting here too, Amal. So thank you so much, Amal, for being the co-host. Pranesh and Harihar, thank you so much. Once again, thank you, one and all. Have a nice day. High five. Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Maritos.